Hey guys, how are you? How is everyone? Welcome back. It's me, Hebon, coming at you with another video. It is Friday morning. Happy Friday to all of yous. I hope everybody's well and blessed. And I hope each and every one of yous are in good health and good mental state of mind, and that all of yous and your families are okay. So before I do this video and what the topic is about, I just wanted to be transparent with you guys about my absence and why you haven't really seen a lot of activity from me. Here on YouTube and even on social and on Xbox and online in general. And the reality is that, unfortunately, thank God, but me and my family had a family crisis where we almost lost our younger daughter. And she is only 17 years of age. And of course, it was a very rough situation and time in my family's household and in our lives. And I know it's not nobody's real business, but I'm just putting it out there so you guys can understand that it's that the only thing I can ask of you is to have some kind of patience with me and understanding. That's all I can ask of you for me not really being as active or putting things out, even though it doesn't matter. And a lot of it really comes because the reality is that I've been feeling guilty of trying to do anything for myself or in YouTube or anything because because of our family situation and us concentrating on making sure that our daughter's okay. So those are the only details I can give you, and I hope you're understanding, but I wanted to be clear about that before I get into this video. So I want to talk about today about the situation and the meltdown that happened yesterday on Twitter with Dark X1, aka John Letterman from Digital Foundry, because this is a very telling story and a very eye-opening story that all of us need to address in the gaming community as gamers that have been doing this and been supporting the hobby for so long, and to point out the hypocrisy and how these people that supposedly are quote-unquote real gaming media analysts or journalists that are supposed to be true and respectful and all about the gaming industry, how they expose themselves with their behavior. And of course, we're all human beings, but there's a certain cadence that you're supposed to have when you are in a certain level and position in gaming, especially that he's been around for a while and he deals with personally companies one-on-one like Nintendo, like Sony, and like Xbox. So first and foremost, sorry about that, guys. I actually pressed the stop button instead of the pause. So first of all, what I wanted to bring up was I've been one of the few people that for a long time I've said to you guys, and I pointed out, whether it's been podcasts, on videos, and just talking in general, when I do streams or things of that nature, that Digital Foundry is not really a reliant or a resourceful type of site for gaming, because they have a very severe and very bad issue of bias, right? And a lot of people say, well, no, that's not true. You're just bugging out, because they do all types of games. Yeah, they do, absolutely. They do analyze all games. They do review all games, or most games, right? Not all the time. But that's because they want to pick and choose their battles, because when they do certain stuff in games, particularly and mainly for Xbox, okay, let's keep it 100, is to either downplay it, to make it look like it's not as good as people or as Microsoft claimed to be, right? Like, for example, when they did Halo 5, where they're like, yeah, it's 4K or 1080p 60 or something like that, right? But that it was 1080p 60 frames dynamic. It would drop down to 900p just to keep performance, like making it sound like it's a bad thing, right? When it's actually a wonderful solution, especially from the console space, right? With hardware that's already baked and created and that can't really be upgraded like you would a PC normally, right? Or in the case when they did the boost to 4K and 60, and they were like, oh, but the NPCs in the game in the background are in 580p, like the background characters and their resolution made the game look horrible or awful or deterred from the experience, when in actuality it never has or never will for any game, not just an Xbox game, in general. And things like that, to give you an example. And I've always said that they're very biased. And this man, John Linderman, yesterday proved once again that not only is he biased, but he also contradicts himself every time. He exposes himself a whole bunch of times, right? And he shows his real colors and intentions and how fraudulent he really is. Why? Well, number one, he showed how unprofessional he was. If you saw the actual post in the front of this video before I started talking, you see what he said. He replied back to a person saying that why the F will he play the Harry Potter games if it's something that's intended for kids, and again, I'm just kind of quoting here and paraphrasing, right? It's not one for one, and that it's a franchise that he hates. Why would he do that? That eventually somebody in digital or at Digital Foundry will have to analyze it, but it's not going to be him, right? And again, there's nothing wrong if you don't like a franchise, right? There's nothing wrong if you don't want to play a game, because you don't have to like every game. But there's multitudes of layers of levelness, or of levels of incorrect, inconcise messaging that he did in this post. Number one, first and foremost, he was very unprofessional. Why would he have to use curse words speaking to a person that just asked him a general question? That person just asked, hey, John, will you guys be doing an in-depth analyst review, right? Or in-depth look at Harry Potter's technology, technical aspects like they do with other games. And instead of just saying, oh, yes, of course we will, but I will not be handling it because I'm not particularly familiar with the franchise, or I don't like that Harry Potter licensed IP, but someone else will be handling it at Digital Foundry, right? And he didn't do that. But yet, I don't see no outlets calling him out, like a IGN, like a Kotaku, or anybody else that are in the same field as he is, in the general aspect, saying how this was inappropriate and shouldn't have been done. I didn't see anybody in social media from any of these companies saying this was inappropriate, or Digital Foundry themselves, right? Even though he's probably one of the lead, head people over there, stating, we apologize, or even him making an apology saying, forgive me for being so unprofessional. This was unwarranted and shouldn't have been done. I was out of hand. I was out of place. I should have never done that. But he didn't do that, right? So this is why I feel it's necessary for us, or someone like myself on YouTube, to point it out, because us just being YouTubers, where we're not confined to restrictions of rules and confined to the fact of being professional people in the field, in the gaming space, really quick, people tend to point it out or say something, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube itself, and make videos about people or others, right? Like they'll make a video about me saying how toxic I am, or how I always am so abrasive or something like that, when anytime that I've done anything if I get abrasive or if I'm, come off as aggressive, it's always in the context of what I'm saying. It's never because I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it or because I have no control over my personality of who I am as a person, which never been the case, right? But I don't have to be worried about how I speak to people because I don't work for an IGN or for a digital foundry. You see? There lies the difference. There's no reason for me to have to worry about that. How I conduct myself on my channel is simply all by choice. If I choose to be professional, I will do that. If I choose to be abrasive, I can also do that. It's my, God-given right on YouTube to do that. As a content creator, right? Or as an influencer, or whatever you want to call it. So, that's number one. Number two, he completely exposes himself and his ignorance and his stupidity, right? By saying that he don't play children-like games, right? And especially since it's open world, because he has disdain for open world games. When this man is the first man to tout anything that Nintendo does, when he just did, like a couple of months ago, Kirby, which is now open world, and it's clearly a kid's game, and he absolutely adored it and said how amazing it is and how incredible it is. And a bunch of other Nintendo titles. Ratchet and Clank, for example, may not be open world, but it's definitely a children's game, and how he loves it, right? And then, not only that, did he expose that with that tweet, but he exposes the fact that he is a fraud because he's talking about a franchise, saying that it's for kids or for children, when the reality is, if anybody that's a real Harry Potter fan knows that it's more for young teenagers that grow into adults. The Harry Potter franchise really starts as a teenager or a young teenager epic that as they go along, they grow up and it becomes dark and gritty and very adult. So he exposed himself that he has no kind of connection and knows nothing about the franchise, which for him is very hypocritical because he has no right to make that kind of statement if he never bothered to invest in the franchise. Do you see what I'm saying? How do you talk about something and think that people are supposed to take your word seriously or with respect or with any integrity if you never bothered to even invest in the franchise? Just by him saying, no, I'm not doing it because I'm not really familiar with the IP, so I choose not to, would have been suffice. But he didn't do that. He said it's dedicated for children. So not only did he make himself look fraudulent and really ignorant, really, because he plays kid games all the time, and yes, he plays open world games all the time, which shows that his bias is only as long as it's a Nintendo exclusive, or in most cases a PlayStation exclusive, right? It's fine because he really loved and talked about Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima. In fact, he even talked about Death Stranding. And these were all new IPs that he had no familiarity with, yet he took the time to invest in them because they were Sony IPs or because it was done by Hideo Kojima, right? The biased and fraudulent behavior of showing straight up how fake you really are, right? Because you took the time to invest in these franchises that were brand new. You had no recollection of them. You had no history with them, just like you had no history and no recollection with Harry Potter, but yet you still invested because, again, they were PlayStation exclusives. And that is a fact. Anything Japanese oriented, he's there on the forefront because he used to live in Japan. He speaks the language, so he thinks in his mind he's Japanese when he's not. Okay? That is a mental sickness. For you to think because you like anime, which I've been in the anime forefront since I was a teenager. It started with us back then in the early 80s. Okay? With all, and even before that, 70s, 60s, with Astro Boy, Mazinger, Robotech, all that stuff. Loved it and adored it. That didn't make me Japanese. In my mind, I never thought, oh, I'm Japanese, arigato, because I could speak the language or because I watched something and embraced their culture. That is a most sycophant thing that you could ever see. And I don't even know if sycophant is a word, but I like the way it sounds. It's crazy. Yet he expresses himself this way, he presents himself this way, and he wants people to take him seriously and think that he's somebody special because he thinks because he can speak the language with, his Japanese native, that makes him somewhat, quote unquote, I'm beyond anybody else on this gaming space. When he's not, you see? And that's another reason why, how people like this that have these channels and these sites get so much support from other people that are in the gaming space. Because the reality is, like I've always said, just because they plug up machines into these consoles, run these games that the machine basically tells them everything they need to know, whether there's lower resolution in areas, screen space reflections, anti-aliasing issues and things of that nature, like performances and resolution and frame rates, that doesn't make them special. It's the machine that's doing the work for them. And they're just repeating and showing the areas and where it is and what it's doing and breaking down what it means. When all you gotta do is go to Google or a dictionary and look it up, whatever the word is, if it's anti-aliasing, and see what the definition of anti-aliasing is, right? These are the things that I'm talking about, how these dudes get the support and they don't deserve it. Why? Because they're fake. They're not real gamers. They're about their taste and their choices and their preferences only. And once you become a professional in the space, in the industry of gaming or anything, whether it's entertainment, whether it's movies, whether it's sports, whatever the case may be, you got to put your preferences to the side, because now you're getting paid to be a professional in that space. So your level of whatever it is you're doing in the gaming space has to be purely unbiased and about being a professional and bringing out the right messaging for the entire gaming industry and community, regardless of the game, regardless of the genre, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's an analyst or an analytical, technical breakdown or a review. Bottom line. So, again, this is not me hating, oh, stop watching John Letterman and come watch me, because that's not what the point of the issue is. I'm just simply speaking how these people get away with doing things like this, don't get called out. They show their bias, they show their fraudulency, they show they're not real, they show they're not genuine, and yet people support them and actually believe their rhetoric and their bull crap and the dust that comes out their mouth and their tongue when they're just there because they're trying to make money. First and foremost, they don't care about the industry anymore. And if they do care, it's only about what they like, which in this case is Nintendo or PlayStation, predominantly PlayStation. Because if I'm not mistaken, I remember when Tim Dog did this whole thing on article, I forgot on the guys that used to have a forum they closed down, he put or he had said where, I think it was Eurogamer, were the ones that funded the existence of Digital Foundry, and that the guy that was the head of Eurogamer, I forgot his name, he was friends with one of the heads at Sony, or he was going out with one of his daughters or something like that. It was all when he did that whole article, and that's in his channel. You can go see it. It was a wonderful piece that he did back then. And he exposed a bunch of people from this the old forums. I forgot where it was, or that old site that used to be real biased with Xbox, and they closed it down. I forgot the name of it at the moment. Forgive me for that. Anyway, so this is what John did. So again, he was the same guy, okay, which I'm going to do a quick pause here. he was the same guy that talked about Xbox, right? Saying that, that Xbox doesn't deserve to be in the industry, that he hates them, he wished they died, and that he don't care about them. Which shows you right there he doesn't care about Xbox, and whatever he does based on Xbox, it's never going to be sincere or real, because you can't take his opinion truthfully or at face value, because he has shown before his hypocrisy, his hate, and his bias towards Xbox, for example, in this case. And I'll stop the video right here so you can see it, and I'll put it up right here and you'll see it. There you go. I hope you saw when he put that comment about it. Okay? So, again, how can you trust these people and say, oh, Digital Foundry is great? Oh, your analyst is absolutely fantastic. How do we know if when they do analysts and tech, reviews on these games, that they just don't pick and choose the areas that they know are the worst only on certain games, like on Xbox and not PlayStation? And maybe it's way more, not as performance-wise, not as good on PlayStation, but they don't show it, and they only show it on Xbox. How do we know that? We don't. We're taking their word for it, but the reality is we don't know, because we're not there, right? And that is why I said that they have no integrity and should not be supported. Period. They should not, because you can't trust people like that. You can't trust their journalistic or gaming prowess when they're showing on Twitter, a social site, that they're just not professional. From cursing, lying about playing open world games and children games, and saying things that completely exposes them. I'm glad that he did it, for the simple fact that it just proves once again and cements once again that he's not honest, that he's not genuine. And again, I'm pretty sure it's going to go over people's heads. Most of the, Xbox haters, or the He-Bot haters, or people that, just really don't want to accept the reality of the situation because they're in denial. Because as long as Digital Foundry works in their favor of their preferred console, like a PlayStation or like a Nintendo, right? Then they know they can use that outlet to hate on Xbox or hate on Microsoft and be like, they're the bad guys, they're shit, their console is shit, their games are shit, they run like shit, like people, like they were trying to say that the games, that are like, that we know their marketing rights with Sony, that every time there's a game that's on marketing right with Sony, those games always run better on PlayStation. And they people try to use that as ammo, as, oh yeah, you see, the Xbox Series X is really not that powerful. Phil Spencer lied. No, dummies. They have a marketing right, so they're going to prioritize, like the Callisto Protocol, right, for example. Or like they probably did now with maybe with Harry Potter, who knows. That they paid money, so. And then we don't know the causes of Sony, what they're doing, because Sony doesn't want to show us that. And they like to hide stuff. And we all know that there's been developers that came out and said that they told them to mandate certain mandates were to make priorities for the PlayStation version and not give any type of special edge over the Xbox version, right? Which is, what they do, because it's a business deal, right? There's bad optimization, obviously. Clearly, it's a deliberate thing, or because they just concentrated mainly on the PlayStation version and then just ported real quick the other versions for like Xbox or even Nintendo for that matter. Although in the Switch case, we all know the hardware is not as, it's just limited. It's not as strong. So it makes sense if you're going to have some performance issues like resolution or or FPS and things of that nature, or lighting or things like that. It just makes sense. So again, they use that and weaponize it to act as if that version is better, or their version is better, because places like Digital Foundry are the first ones in line when they know that's the case, so that they can use it to make Microsoft or the Xbox console or the game version of Xbox look like it's the inferior version, right? So my thoughts on that is, it's great to see that John Lederman, aka Dark X1, exposed himself once again. And maybe you guys, maybe this time, will open your eyelids and see that they're not real. They're not people you can trust in, that they're biased, unprofessional, and that really don't care about, let's say in this case, anything Xbox related, right? And it comes off as hate towards WB when it shouldn't, because again, he has no familiarity with the IP. He never took the time to invest. He showed the fact that he never invested, because if he did, he would have known that Harry Potter's not just a kid's IP or a kid's property. Bottom line. All right, guys, those are my thoughts. I wanted to speak on it as best and quick as possible, because I haven't done a video like this in a while. And again, like I said, I've just been feeling guilty of doing anything, because my concentration, as I've been trying to just focus on my daughter's well-being, and that she's okay, and that we help her out with anything she needs, because that's priority number one, bottom line. And you guys understand that, I'm pretty sure, or should anyway. So leave a comment down below, leave a thumbs up if you like the video, leave a thumbs down if you didn't like the video. Let me know what you think about my topics, my thoughts on this. I love you guys very much. Share this video with someone you think might like it. As always, you can find me on any social media platform or outlet. It's in the description below. You guys know where you can find me. You can DM me, hit me up, talk. If you want to come out and do something with me, or a video, or one-on-one, or be on We Got Next, anything like that, I'll be more than glad to do so and share that with you, as long as you're respectful, as long as you're serious about the conversation, and you're not going to be a troll or, do something dumb. I'll see you guys real soon on the next video. Like I said, I'm just glad to be able to express myself on a gaming, or something in relation to gaming topic that's going on. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, love you, peace, bye bye.